Hello, startup and scale up leaders. One of the challenges we've observed when working with early to growth stage entrepreneurs and executives is the lack of access to stage appropriate advice. When they work with consultants, coaches, advisors, strategists, most of the time they're getting randomized advice without structure, without clear direction, and it causes a lot of stress and overwhelm for early to growth stage entrepreneurs. If you are one, I'm sure you can totally relate. If you've worked with one, ask them if this is something that resonates with them, and you'd find out that this is a big problem. So what we did at Peak Perfectly in the past couple of months was to build a system. Some of our consultants at Peak Perfectly collaboratively built a system to help provide the best advice for our startup and scale up entrepreneurs and executives. Before I go into briefly overviewing this system, it's a very simple system. It's nothing complex. It's just easy to implement. So if you're a strategist, a consultant, an executive, you want to watch the entirety of this video because you might be able to learn one or two things. The reason that stage appropriate advice is important for the early to growth stage of a business is because without that, there is lost opportunities, lost resources, just poor decision making, which is one of the biggest challenges of executive leadership in any business, regardless of the size. You need to be making better decisions, smart decisions. And if you have stage inappropriate advice, your decision making will be badly impacted. So there's lost opportunities, lost resources, bad decision making, stress, overwhelm, confusion, and all the things that come with it. We don't want that. We want to have clear direction, and that's why we built this system. So this system is based on very popular stages of business that most entrepreneurs, most strategists, most consultants are familiar with. So we have about 7 stages of business depicted here. We take the business phases into account, the valleys of death. There's a potential value of death as you're trying to cross from one business stage to the other. And there are measures to take into account between each stage. So you see that we have 4 measures for business optimization. So within each transition, those measures need to be front and center in order for you to transition from one stage to the other appropriately. I'm not going to go into a deep dive of this system, but I want to briefly overview it here. On this page, we added the talents, the type of talents you need. So there are 4 elements to take into account with this system. You have the phases of business growth or the phases of business. You have the valleys of death, the potential valleys of death. You have the types of talents that must be prioritized for each phase of the business. Then you have the measures of business optimization. Once you have this figured out, it's easy to know what decisions to take, how to spend your money in times where there's cash crunch. Entrepreneurs are cash strapped. They're looking for ways to cut costs, make sure that they're capital efficient, manage their expenses, ensure that every dollar put into the business can be well accounted for. We're no longer in the era of grow at all costs, spend like there's no tomorrow, just hire and fire whenever. We're moving past that. That's the old way. In today's world, you have to spend smartly. You have to be very resourceful in order to build sustainably. So this system, our consultants use it. And with this, our clients have clarity. They feel calmer. They have the sense of direction. There's nothing as a leader like knowing what you're doing, knowing exactly what it is you're doing. It does a lot to your well-being, because at Peak Perfectly, we're big on not just your performance, but your well-being, how you thrive as a leader, how you thrive as a startup, scale-up founder and executive. We're very big on that. So this system is a very simple system, and I'm just going to quickly give a rundown of it. So you have the 7 stages. You have the first stage, which is the conception. The potential value of death from conception to prototyping is a faulty idea. So if you are struggling to get your business from conception to design, which is where you're then building an MVP, your idea might be faulty. So what you want to do is go back to the conception phase and revisit the idea. And when we use this system with our clients, we use the airplane analogy. So at the conception, you're trying to put the pieces of the plane together. The next phase is prototyping or the design phase. That's where you're building your MVP. That's where you're trying to establish product market fit. The potential value between that and the rollout phase is a week product market fit. If you're not able to validate your product right, if you don't have a good point of view, if you don't have a clearly defined value proposition, you are not going to successfully transition from the design phase to the rollout phase. And the potential value of that, there is a weak product market fit. Then the next phase is a rollout to growth. With rollout, you're testing the market, you're trying your go-to-market, you're doing it in batches or whatever the case might be. If you roll out right, you're going to be able to grow. Most people conflate rolling out with growth. If you don't roll out, you cannot scale. So rollout is what happens before that rapid growth happens. Most entrepreneurs think they're in rapid growth when they haven't even rolled out. So rollout ensures that you're testing to make sure you have the right systems to support your growth. You're doing a lot of systems. You're building systems and processes and your workflows and your blueprints. You're doing that when you're rolling out. Then between rollout and growth, if there's a struggle, if the business is not finding it easy, it could possibly mean that they have not refined the systems required to steady this business. So the airplane analogy there is your business is just about to take off with rollout. With design, your business is on a runway. And so between growth and expansion, which is the next point, now you've rolled out, you've tested the market, you've proven what works, and you're scaling that. That's where growth happens. You're growing, but you can't stop at growth. You have to then expand. So when you're growing, you're trying to saturate your market. You're trying to establish yourself, gain enough market share. Once you're gone beyond that, you want to expand, which is where you build extra capabilities, whether you're doing that through alliances, acquisitions, acquire hires. So this is all the way. I think I'm going to stop here at this point because we're talking mostly now to startup and scale up leaders, and we focus on this first 4 stages of this system. Now, our clients love to understand what all the stages are about because it just gives them an idea. They are visionaries. They are thinking long term. They want to build businesses that are sustainable. So they want to have this big picture and the full scope. So we break it down for them. But in this video, I don't want to go further to break it down. So this system just helps you see the phases of business growth or the phases of business in general, the potential values of death, the types of talent and the types of measures. I'm not going to overview those 2 in this video. You'd have to be a client of PickPerfleas to get the full scope of this system. But I tell you, it is one of the simplest systems I've seen consultants use to help early on growth stage businesses make the most of their resources, make the most of strategy, and build sustainable businesses with less stress, less cost, and less time. If you want to learn more about this and if you want to engage with our consultants at PickPerfleas, please use the link around this video or follow us at PickPerfleas across social media, or go to our website pickperfleas.com to request a demo, and we will continue the conversation from there. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.